What is up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. Guys, we're back with part 4 of Americans Living Abroad. First time you realize America really messed you up. Hey, these, I ain't gonna lie, these are good and true. Most of them are true, you know. As I've stated before, my experiences are different from everybody's, but there are some things that I can confirm on these things, you know what I'm saying? But definitely like hearing other people's experience and what they just believe, you know, their opinion, you know, and how they feel type of thing. But we finna jump into this. Y'all make sure y'all hit that subscribe button, send down those recommendations. Hey, let's get us jumping.
Oh man, I got so many stories. As you may know, I'm an American living in Italy, and there have been so many times I'm thinking, oh my god, America is so messed up. Most recently is when I gave birth to my daughter. So I decided to give birth to my daughter here in Italy, and basically before you give birth, they recommend that you meet up with an anesthesiologist. Even if you don't want the epidural beforehand, they recommend you do so just in case, like an emergency, you really want one, or etc. So I didn't even end up getting the epidural, but I had to pay for the meeting, and I'm thinking, oh no, how much is this meeting gonna cost? It was 30 euros. 30 euros is equivalent of maybe, let's say, like $40. And also, too, I stayed in the hospital for 3 days, got completely taken care of, and I didn't pay a cent. A cent.
So in the U.S., I regularly get pneumonia. Sometimes I get like pneumonia and bronchitis, but pretty much all, you know, like clockwork, I get it.
Some of these, they be showing like some of the ones I've seen, but then there be like new faces. Oh, that's always good.
I had just moved to Scotland for my master's, and I was coming down with a respiratory infection like I do every year. It was just the early onsets of pneumonia, but like normally I wait to the point of where I'm like literally unable to breathe before I go to the doctor because it's expensive in the US. Well, here I was like, you know what, I'm here. I paid for the NHS. Let me go get it. Saw a doctor, gave me a prescription. I went to the pharmacy to pick up my medication. Something that I literally would not be able to afford with my minimum wage job and being a full-time student. They gave it to me for free because it was necessary, and I almost cried in the pharmacy. Like tears were welling in my eyes.
In the US, I could not let my 11-year-old son go outside and play by himself. Someone would call the cops or something would legitimately happen to him, and so there was no way. And when I moved to Germany, my husband, who's a German national, suggested that he go outside and play by himself because we would not have to worry.
Okay, so I'm not currently...
And two, I think with that also, like, when we stayed in apartments, at least when I was younger and growing up, like, we was able to go outside, no problem. But I feel like nowadays, like, especially if you don't live in an apartment complex, it's hard to just let your kids go outside. Like, I send my kids, right now I have a house, I send my kids outside to the back, or they can go to the front, most of the time to the back, because that's where they got their stuff at, most of their stuff at. But I feel like growing up, I was roaming around, like, me and my brothers and stuff, and, like, kids around the neighborhood used to roam around a lot.
Living abroad, but I did live in Australia for a few months. And one night while I was there, I got a little bit too crazy, and I ended up on public transportation without a phone, and I had to find my way back to my apartment, and I got lost, and while I got off the tram to get onto a different tram to take me home, a middle-aged gentleman came up to me, and I immediately went into attack mode, and I was like going to kill him. And he was like, no, I was just going to tell you which tram to take to get back to Preston. And that was when I realized that in Australia, I didn't need to be afraid. Like, granted, take precautions, but I didn't need to be afraid of every man. But in America, I still am.
I pride myself on being an American. I didn't make it out before COVID. But I went to Norway, and I fell in love with Norway. I read about it, researched it, and I was like, I've got to visit first. And I only went for a week, and it was for the Inferno Metal Festival. And for the first time in my life, I was actually called an American. They didn't assume where I was from. And there was this beautiful Norwegian elder, and she says, "God påske." And I said, "Beklager, jeg snakker litt norsk." And I said, basically, she said, "Happy Easter." And I said, "I'm sorry, I don't speak a lot of Norwegian." And she goes, "Oh, you're an American." And she didn't worry about her purse. She didn't look at me sideways. And I cried. I cried when I left because for the first time, I was able to be just an American. I didn't even hardly drink, didn't do anything crazy.
Hey, I live in Ireland and I've lived most of my adult life here. I moved to Ireland in
I
1995.
feel like I've seen
My
this
teenage
one
daughter
too.
was born here many years ago, and when she was born, I spent 2 nights in hospital before she was born. I had an emergency cesarean section, and then I spent a further 6 nights afterwards. The total cost to me was 0. I kept asking them, like, are you sure no one wants my credit card? Like, do you want my details so you can send me the bill? And they would just
Like,
like
here's
laugh,
some money,
like,
take
oh,
it.
you're American. There's no bill. So 8 nights in hospital, emergency procedure, 0 bill.
So when we first got here, we had to go straight into quarantine. 2 weeks, no big deal. We thought everything was taken care of. Well, we got a letter from the electric company while we were in quarantine. Couldn't understand it. It was all in German. We tried to translate it. Google Translate wasn't really doing anything for us. We couldn't understand it. So we were like, we'll just go in person, once the 2 weeks are over. Well, on the last day of quarantine, our power gets shut off. And we're like, what the fuck? Like, why? So we finally, after a few hours, get a hold of somebody who can speak English, and they laugh at us, and they were like, are you American? And we were like, yeah. And they were like, yeah, we don't shut your power off just because you don't pay. You have to go through a whole system before we shut your power off. I've never been so embarrassed, because we really were like, we'll pay anything, like, please turn our power back on. And they were like, yeah, we don't shut power off here. It's good to know.
So I don't currently live abroad, but I did live in Japan from September of 2019 to March of 2020, and the amount of things I realized while living abroad is astronomical. So I live in New York, and this varies state to state, but generally the average cost for an individual for health insurance is about $500. If you have a family, your family plan is going to cost you about $1,000 a month. In Japan, I paid $23. $23 a month for health insurance that covered everything. And don't even get me started on the American food industry because it's disgusting. Not only could I feed myself
I
for
think I've seen this one too. Like the food, you get tired of eating
2
that.
weeks
You
on
eat-
$50, but food regulations in Japan are so strict. I ate the exact same way I would in America, and I still lost 40 pounds. 40 pounds.
So I'm an American and I live in Norway right now. And one time I was going to help my friend with this project that she had, and this girl was still in high school. And so she was like, yeah, just come to my high school. You can help me out, yada, yada, yada. I was like, great. Where do I have to sign in when I get there? Do I need to wear a visitor's badge? Who do I talk to? What should I tell the front desk lady? She was like, what are you talking about? Just walk in and I'll meet you at my classroom. And my mind was blown. I was like, I can just walk into your school? Like, no, aren't they gonna call the police? Aren't they gonna send out an intruder alert? Like, I can't just walk into your high school and just walk straight to your classroom. No. Then I realized just how messed up it is that American high
That's a
schoolers
fact.
are like security prisons.
It really. Hey, I feel like I seen this one too. But she right though. It's like a whole process. Like I was going in to do something one time because I think one of my siblings was still in school, or one of my basketball players, and dude, like they almost tried to kick me out because I didn't have a meeting set up. I wasn't on the schedule type. Like who does that?
Okay, so I live in New York now, but I used to live in England, and one time I was out at this bar
Yeah, I
with my
think this is a
friends,
new one.
and these 2 cops walked by. And one of my friends was like, oh, I wonder why there are cops out right now. And I looked at the cops, and I got really confused, and I was like, those are cops? And my friends were like, yeah. And I was like, they don't have guns. And everyone was like, why would they have guns? They were like so aghast at that question. And I realized in that moment and learned that guns, there are so few guns in the UK, and it's such not an issue that like the everyday cop does not carry a gun. And I was there are houses in America that have seen more guns in them than a fresh vegetable. It blew my fucking mind. I think about it all the time. I hate guns so much.
So I didn't realize this until I moved abroad, but Americans have a very strange concept of freedom. like when you're growing up, you're always told that America is such an amazing place, and you know it's the land of the free, home of the brave.
Facts.
But
That's what they say.
like I keep hearing these criticisms from people like, oh yeah, but America has the most freedom. Wow, yeah, freedom. I mean, there may be a few exceptions or nuances, but in the UK, you're still free. Like, that is the biggest lie that Americans are ever told, that there aren't other free places. Like, I don't understand. And if I'm being
I feel like I don't know if you ever been to America, and if you ever watched like a TV commercial, they used to always make it seem like, and don't get me wrong, I know there's certain poor parts everywhere, but they used to always show us like, African commercials where it's like feed the children, hungry families and stuff like that. To the point where they showed it so much, you would have thought like Africa was like poor and all that. Like, I had a roommate that was from Nigeria, and he was from like I think I mentioned this. Yeah, somebody corrected me on it. I forgot what the city was called, but it kind of resembled New York. And I was like, bro, they used to just show us like commercials of Africa being poor all the time, like, cause I never really just went into research Africa and stuff, but that's how they conditioned us through commercials and schools and stuff. They never showed us that, wait a minute, it's just like the rest of, like, everybody got poor places, but this is not the only place in this place. You get what I'm saying? But that's how they would get us. Like, I had a roommate, he was like, dude, this is where I'm from. Like, he was showing me, like, different places. He was like, this is where I'm from. This is what we do. I was like, wow. Definitely wouldn't mind visiting Africa.
Perfectly honest, I feel like the concept is kind of destroying American democracy. How ironic. Like, they need to kind of understand that they need to work on things to make themselves better and more free for their citizens.
So I moved to Germany in 2018 as a study abroad student, and I had a nice apartment that was on the ground floor with a nice patio, a big door that opened that led to the patio. And I was minding my own business in bed one day. The door was wide open. I had my noise-canceling headphones on, and I heard these really loud banging noises coming from outside that weren't very far. And I'm like, that's not a firework or a firecracker. It can't be. I freak out because as an American, I'm like, I'm about to get shot. Somebody is shooting up all of the student apartments right now. So I call all of my friends and I'm like, did you hear that? Am I crazy? Do we need to call the police and whatever? And they're like, I don't know, but yeah, maybe call your boyfriend who's German and like ask him. So I call my boyfriend and I'm like, watching, we just heard this stuff, like what's going on? And he's like, not to worry. Here in Germany, we don't have shooters. Those are probably just firecrackers. And I'm just like, I'm damaged. Like, we are all damaged and freaking out about freaking firecrackers. We think we're going to get shot up.
So I live in Estonia now, and I remember the first year that I moved here, it was around the beginning of December, and I remember hearing like gunshots, like really loud gunshots, like, and a lot of them. So me being from Brooklyn, I immediately think that there's some crazy shootout going on outside. So I go and I look out the window, and sure enough, it's fireworks. Fireworks are kind of sort of illegal in New York City, so I was used to just automatically assuming that it was gunshots. Yeah, that's kind of when I realized that.
Dang, hey, it's one of those things, man, that it really does. America really has messed us up and conditioned us to believe certain things, but then again, I feel like as you get older, you can seek more knowledge. That's what I've been doing, because that's what I realized. They teach you only so much what they want you to know, type thing. Because I feel like I learned more being out of school than I did in school. Just being honest, you know, like one day I will have my own school where we teaching all this stuff. You know what I'm saying? Teaching stuff that we really need to know. Might have to have the kids go on trips around the world type. You know what I'm saying? So that's my plan when I get in my 30s, to have my own school. So, but guys, this was, of course, I think I've seen most of these already. This is like a different channel, so I think I've seen most of these though. But that's all I have for this video. I'm gonna still post it because I said some new stuff, but that's all I have. Y'all hit that subscribe button, send down those recommendations, and y'all be blessed, be the best, and be you. I'm out.